Hello, ladies. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on Singles Hangout with OMOBOLA. Thank you for joining. Please go ahead and share if you can. Thank you for joining us tonight. I give you about 3-4 minutes. Please go ahead and share. Tag your friends. Let them know that we're live. Good evening, ladies. Thank you for joining us. One minute remaining. Thank you for joining us. Good evening, ladies. Thank you so much for joining tonight. Thank you for hanging out with me. We have a lot to go through tonight, and by God's grace, we believe that the Lord will help us to cover all the things that we have to and need to cover tonight. So I'm particularly excited tonight. We've got Chidinma Akunna in the house. And Chidinma, you can unmute yourself now. We've got Chidinma Akunna in the house. And I was just saying to her a few minutes ago, I said, in spite of the fact that I'm a general practitioner and I'm meant to know a lot about everything, it's always important that we refer on to specialists about issues when we need help. So that's the reason why I decided to reach out to a specialist tonight. Chidi Akunna is married to Victor Akunna, and both of them run the Foundation for Family Affairs UK. It's a relationship ministry, and they've been a blessing to many people within the UK, outside the UK. They run courses, they support people, they speak at relationship and marriage seminars. She is a legal practitioner. She works in the UK, and she is a mother of an amazing young gentleman who keeps her really busy. So you will be seeing her face a few times on TPG, and she's a jewel. You know, her husband and herself, they are. If I know that if if your husband could be a member of TPJ, he would have been. You know, so amazing couple. You know, their testimony you will get to hear sometime soon. But I'm so glad that we have Chidinma in the house tonight. So, Chidi, do you want to say hello to the jewels before we crack on?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, ma'am. It is a pleasure. I'm looking forward to a great time. Thank you.
We're gonna start with the question. So the first question I've got for you is that you need to tell us, in your opinion, do you believe that there is a perfect fit relationship for a particular individual? What is your view about this? You know, many people are of the school of thought that you can marry just anybody. I'm not going to share my own view until after you've shared yours. So what is your view, or what is the view of your ministry about having a perfect fit relationship for a particular person? What do you think?
Okay. Before then, I would say thank you very much again for having me. It's amazing how you're able to combine all you do. And I am often inspired by women like you who are able to do everything and still maintain work-life balance and ministry. Thank you, ma'am. So back to the question. In answering this, I would say there are two schools of thoughts. There's a school of thought that there's the perfect will of God. Okay. And some people tie that to the scripture where it says you have the good and perfect will of God. Now, we can't discount that because we've seen people who believe that and it works for them. It worked for them. And that was their situation. There's the other school of thought, which is that God has given choice to man. Okay, so it is yours, it is your choice, it is your place to make that choice. Okay, but what such people would say would be that Jesus at the end of the day was the wisdom and the power of God. Now, for talking about the perfect will of God, that's the power of God. But when we say the wisdom of God, there are principles for this. There are principles we can apply. So for people of this school of thought, they run with the principles that are set in the word and they get results.
Awesome. So essentially, you can either, whether you believe that there is a perfect will which you were born with, or there is the power of choice that God has given you, you can actually, achieve your result through either means, and it will still be godly. Well, I think that's what you were trying to say, and I get it absolutely. Now, when it comes to that, now I'm going to take you slightly away from what we had said. One of my brothers, who I respect his opinions a lot, was talking to me about, us as Christians, that we do things and we say this is the will of God, but then later on, when things don't go well, for instance, this probably happened whilst you were in the uni or several years ago, where people say, oh, I have prayed, this is the will of God, this is the man God wants me to marry. And then 4 years into the marriage, you find out that he has anger issues. So what happened to the will of God? And then you say, I'm no longer interested in the marriage because Bros has got anger issues, which is causing a lot of problem. And Bros does not think that he has any problem, and it's affecting the family. So did God not know that he has anger issues before he asked you to marry him? That kind of a setting. I'm not asking you to answer that. I'm just saying that, as Christians, a lot of us, we struggle. We struggle because, one, we never really bother to find out what the will of God is. So what we think is the will of God based on our butterflies and how everybody was saying you're good for each other. Then when things do not go right, then we say, okay, maybe God didn't speak. It is the confusion that is still in the body of Christ. But I believe that tonight, a lot of people will be able to pick what they need to pick from this session, and it will help. Now, to the main dish for the day. Please share with us some common telltale signs that a relationship may be a no-no.
Okay, great. Now, when you say common telltale signs that a relationship may be a no-no, I think we're talking to single ladies here. So this is where red flags, relationship red flags will come up. And what are red flags? They're just warning signals of impending danger. So it's for you to stop and reassess the situation. Business people would say make take risk assessment. Okay, so for something like we would often say, for something that has to do with your life, you need to consider it that important. So what we say, common tales, some of them I would highlight would be, you're his best kept secrets. Now, he claims he loves you. You're in a relationship with this person. He never talks about you to anyone. He's not. You've been in a relationship for a while. He's not introduced you to anyone. You don't know his friends. You've not met his friends. You only hear about them. You've not met any member of his family. And each time it's like, okay, can we go out to do something? Oh, I've got this appointment. No, he wants you to meet in a private place. He talks to you, he spends time, he enjoys that. That should flag up something. That should get you thinking. Now, he hits you like you were talking earlier. You're talking about anger issues. Okay, he goes into a fit and he breaks things. That should make you stop. Because sometimes what you find is when we talk about relationship red flags, I'll say this with some sensitivity because we've come to find is that some people are ignorant of some red flags. And permit me to wear my legal hat for a bit. And I would say to you that it's very sad when you meet some women, and by reason of their religious and cultural background, they've been trained to accept certain things. They think it's okay. Oh, he's the man, he's the man. But what they do not know is that they're being abused in the relationship. But they've been trained to think it's okay. So that's the place of ignorance. Some people don't even realize this is a red flag. What's going on? You should be aware of this. You should wake up. He hits you and you think it's okay. The other part is some people sometimes make excuses, and that's because their emotions were involved before they began to apply logic, before they began to reason, okay, before they began to think. So when your emotions are already entangled, what you're thinking at that point is, yes, he shouts at other people, but he's not shouted at me before. You start making such excuses, but that's a red flag. That's something that should make you stop to think, why does he break things when he's upset? Why? That's rage. Now, he becomes very controlling and you think it's okay. That's a red flag. Those are some things you should be worried about. He manipulates you. Sometimes we hear things like, God has said he would be my wife. And if you don't marry me, you'll be doomed for life. That's manipulation. She should have a right to also consult with God. I want to believe she has a relationship with God as well. She's God's jewel. So she should have that opportunity to do that. But not for you to make her think that, oh, you're not giving her the chance. So if she doesn't do that, then her life is doomed. To avoid doom, because she knows you hear from God, she gets into the relationship. She goes all the way into marriage. So these are some few signs, and some are even financial. He comes to you today, he asks for money. Tomorrow, if there's a loan, there's another loan, and he thinks you probably when you query that, he says, oh, it got the money, just something happened. There's always a story. It's something to pause and check, assess the situation, what's going on. Yes.
That is, you've put quite a lot in that. Now I'm gonna go back and pick on a few of them. You see, this issue of controlling, I think it also depends on the woman's personality. Now let me explain why I said that. Some women love men. There are men who are just permissive, but there are men who are like, you can't do that. You can't do that. For some ladies, most especially ladies who were brought up in abusive homes, they are used to a male man, being on them like this. So they see it as okay. So what you call controlling, some people may just say, oh, he likes to be in charge. There is a very thin line between somebody being in charge of the family as a whole and being controlling to the point of being damaging. Now, I am aware of people who they're married, but the woman does not have a debit card. The man has her debit card, okay? And then he gives her money to do whatever she tells him that she needs to do. This did not just start when they got married. Some people believe that giving something like that is a sign that they're submissive. There's a story I've shared before. You see, we've come from different levels. We've come from wherever we are to where we are today. At a point, I'm sure that a few married women may be watching this. Very early years of my marriage, you know what you said about us being doctored and being told and being, you know, we've been taught many things. And I thought that it would show my husband that I was very respectful of him and submissive to him to give him my debit card. And I did. I did that. Probably the first year of my marriage, I did. Because I wanted him to know that, look, everything I have belongs to you. We're one. I did that. But the challenge I had was that I am the planner in my home. I am the one who is very calculative. I could tell you how much is going out by direct debit without checking my account. I could tell you that. I could tell you what date, the exact amount in, you know, pounds, pennies. I'll tell you. My husband, not. I am the one who will say, do I need to give this? How much do I need to give? Does this person really need this money? But my husband, you need money, take. You need money, take. You need money, most especially if you're a child of God. You need money, take. And that was getting us into trouble. So I remember I went to Nigeria and my husband had my debit card and I'd registered for notification. And I was monitoring the amount of money in my account. I was in Nigeria for a few weeks. And then one big amount left my account. Boom! And I thought, wow, this man, what did he do with that? Of course, his phone rang. And I said, you took money from the cash points at, you know, Catchford or somewhere. I said, you took this amount of money. And he said, oh, that brother was releasing an album. And I just wanted to sew that into his album releasing. Ah! You saw that into his album releasing. Did you not check the balance in the account? I mean, assuming there was £300 in my account, my husband sold 250 into album releasing. I almost fainted. I smiled. I said, that's okay. It's all right. You've already given the money. It's not coming back. Fine. My dear sister Chidi, I arrived UK about 6-7 days later. As my husband hugged me at Heathrow, as I hugged him, my first question is, did you bring my debit card? I collected it from him before we got to the car, in case he changed his mind. And I told him, my husband, you know I love you, but this card, no access again. Now, some of us have been taught that, look, you support your husband with everything. How do you know which one to support and which one to not support? With this controlling thing that we're talking about, I know that there can be a very fine line, but financially, how do you know a man who you need to be wary of? What do you see in them?
Okay, I like that. Okay, sometimes you see he starts a business. He starts with a huge capital,
Yeah.
and after a while, he can't even account for anything. That's something to be wary of. He's fond of taking loans. He keeps collecting, and then it's not like there's any tangible thing done with that. Something you can look at and say, oh, okay, this is it. Now, the other bit too is that he keeps collecting money from you This a lot of single ladies are victims of this.
Yeah.
He keeps asking you for money. There's always something, and because you love him, you keep giving. And some don't even ask, what's the money for? Because, oh, I'm in love with him. Okay, or he keeps telling you about, this big project that is going to happen soon. There's something that is going to happen soon, and you know you're not seeing anything. There's nothing. There are no signs. There are always proposals. There are no signs. I think that's something to be concerned about. Yes, yes.
A few years ago, I put a post on Thy Precious Jewels as I was talking about marital disasters. Yeah, that was I did a series which I called Marital Disasters. And after one of the ladies read this, she sent me a message and she said, Omobi, I think I know what is happening now, because this lady had taken a few loans because she worked with a finance company, and she had taken a few loans. And this guy, who had been left alone by his family, nobody was willing to support him, give this guy some huge amounts of money. And then this guy started business with it, and the business started prospering. And then she was worried that this guy, I was calling him, is now very busy with the business. And one day, the guy said, what is it? I said, when I say I'm business, I'm doing business. I mean, I said, you can see that I'm clearly busy. I'm here like 9-10 hours a day. So when you call me and I can't get to speak to you, you should just understand that I'm busy. And the lady was like, yes, you're doing business, but we're still in a relationship to marry. And the guy said, no, if this is how you're going to be nagging me when I'm married to you, I think we should just forget about the relationship. And that was it. And then he sent a message the next day and said, as far as the money is concerned, just give me a few years to settle. I will pay back your money. And that was how he broke the relationship. And this lady had to, a single lady, comfortable lady, now had to go and start servicing that loan. And she was saying to me, what do I do? I said, sis, it's very sad, it's very painful, but that is what happens. And the single sisters who are watching us tonight, if you cannot let go of a money, do not give it to a man you are not yet married to. Even the one you are married to, you need to make sure that your senses are intact. You need to be able to ask questions. Chidi said something at the beginning. They don't want to be asked. You can't even tell them, where did the money go? That is very wrong. That is wrong. If you make that mistake once, it shouldn't happen again. If a man decides that you cannot question him, because it's a common thing, a lot of women contact me about this. You borrow money, you give it to him, and you are asking him what has happened, what is the profit, and he says, what do you know about business? I've been doing business before your father was born. And that's what they do. They make their face hard so that you cannot question them, or they spend the money on other things rather than what they said they would do. So be very alert. Don't get yourself into trouble, my dear sisters. The Bible says a wise man seeth trouble afar and avoids it. Financial trouble, you can see it from afar. You know whether your husband is hardworking or not. If he cannot even manage to make a profit, and then you go and take a big loan for him, there is something wrong with you. No woman should ever put themselves in such a situation. Now, the second thing before we leave that, Chidi, you were talking about emotions being already entangled. I presume in this case, we're talking about things like sex. A lot of our single sisters, because you want to secure a man, you decide to give your body. So, how should that be something to be worried about when a man is asking you for sex before marriage? Is that something to be worried about as a red flag?
Okay, when we talk about emotions being entangled, sometimes there might be no sex, but because you've fallen in love with this person, there's something we always say: investigate before you affectionate. Permit the word. Yep. Investigate before you affectionate. So before your emotions start getting wrapped around this person, you need to do your due diligence. You need to do your searches. You need to check. There's something I always would make reference to. When in property law, they would say, caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. So if you're going to purchase a property, you need to do your checks. It's your responsibility as the buyer. So for you who is going into this relationship with this person, before your emotions start getting entangled, you need to search this person out. You need to ask questions. You're talking about the financial part of things. There are people who are in debt and they don't want to talk about it. You get married and then you're shocked because his credit history is damaged, but he never mentioned. But by reason of marriage, there are some implications, that we cannot discount. Talking about the other bits to do with sex. Now, sex, I think, blows your mind. I mean, it should be a no-no. Sex should be a no-no. If a man, for me, as a single lady, when I was single, if one asked me for sex, I would feel insulted.
That's right. Me too.
Because I mean, there are other things you should. I have value to offer apart from sex. But one thing people sometimes forget is that sex blows your mind from seeing certain things. You don't see the red flags you should see because your emotions are now wrapped around this person. You have sex. Once you have sex the first time, you see him again. It's sex. You keep craving it, and then we encourage people to talk. But when you keep having sex, there's no time to talk. You're not discovering yourselves in any way. So you're not finding out things you should find out about this person through questions. There are times you ask questions that elicit responses that sometimes give you a direction and insight to certain things. But when you keep having sex with this person, it blows your mind from such things, and it's all about the sex. You get married, and then you're shocked about certain things you discover. But right. I think that for any Christian single lady, come on, you should know your worth is beyond sex. If he's asking you for sex, he's actually being rude.
Yeah. Now we've got a question which was put on the screen. Let me just see if I can find that question. And I don't know why I'm not able to see it here. The question is, what are the signs of being controlling? Do you want to answer that, Chidi?
Okay.
That somebody may be controlling.
You're out with your friends, you're having a good time, and he calls you. Oh, where are you? Yeah, it's nice. He's checking up on you. And then he suddenly starts asking questions like, oh, okay, can you turn on your camera? Oh, can I see where you are? Show me around. No. You need to, I mean, there was a lady I was talking with, and she said something I found very remarkable. I thought to myself, this is really good. She said she went out with someone who, was trying to, they're still talking. There's no agreement yet. And she went out, and there was this other guy who I think he spilled his drink. So she tried to help him, dab the water and all that. And when she returned back to her seat, he flipped. And he was like, why would you go help a guy? And at that point, she looked at him. I was like, no, don't do that. That's controlling. Yeah. Why would you? Why? Yes, you could. Someone could say, oh, it's because he loves you. He's jealous. No, but there should be some limits to these things. So that's another example of one being controlling. He wants to know where you are every time. Now there are levels. I will be careful in saying this because there just as we would often say with anything, there are levels as the relationship progresses. Okay, there are times. Okay, there's a point it gets to, and he needs to know.
That's right.
He needs to know. Okay, but when it's still at the peripheral stage and he's coming across like he's bullying you, he wants to know. Sometimes they control even with your money. He asks you, oh, give me some cash there, and okay, I'll give it back to you in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, he's not done that. He comes to you again and he asks for some money, and he's like, oh, but I keep giving you a lift from your work from home to your workplace and things like that. No, at that point it's like, what's going on? That's now you becoming controlling in the area of finance. Because you think because you're giving me a lift, I should be giving you some money. So we might as well spell things out If it's a service I should be paying for, then I should pay for it.
Now, a lot of ladies do have problem with knowing what the difference between control and love. And as you said, I am one person. When I share how my husband and I relate, it's very funny because I used to work very far away from home. And I remember about 6-7 years ago, I would drive about 1 hour, 20 minutes in the morning to get to work. And once I get in the car and I drive out of the driveway, my husband is on the phone with me all the way. All the way. Once I park and I say, I'm at work now, he goes, all right. And if I was coming back the same day, once I sit in the car, I call him. And that is when I download all the happenings for the day. So by the time I walk in through the door, I'm relieved of any stress or whatever's happened, because whilst I was driving absent-mindedly, I've spilled everything. I've told him everything. But some of my friends can't understand why. Why does your husband have to talk to you all the way when you're coming home? Why? It's not because he's demanding to. You will know, because you should feel uncomfortable. You should have your own breathing space. You should have times when you should be yourself. I put a post up a while ago, about 2 weeks ago, about a woman just being yourself. Have the freedom. Some people cannot speak anyhow before, they can't speak anyhow before the person they want to marry or who wants to marry them. They can't speak. You're wondering whether the next sentence you're going to say is whether they will like it, whether they'll criticize it. They're already controlling you. They're controlling what you wear before you even marry them. I had a lady who sent me a message. She said, my fiance has already told me that once we marry, I cannot wear earrings anymore. And I thought, wait, were you wearing earrings when you met him? Yes. And he decided that he wanted to marry you? Yes. I said, that is something wrong. That is something wrong. You're wearing earrings because you want to. The question now is not whether it is right to wear earrings or it is wrong to wear earrings. Why is this person who met you in this shade of skin and decided that you're his wife, who met you wearing earrings, suddenly decides that the shade of your skin and the earrings are not scriptural? You should be able to sense that from a distance and say, this is a control freak. Now, when you talk to me about that, before you marry, I've got a counsel to give you. After you marry, I've got a different counsel to give you, because you've already gone past the line. One of my sisters contacted me about, I think a few months ago, and said, my husband says I can no longer wear trousers. And I said to her, and what's wrong with that? You can't wear trousers. I don't like control, but you see, you've already married this guy. So the question is, will you divorce him because he says you can no longer wear trousers? And I asked her, I said, how important is this marriage to you? If your husband says no more trousers, maybe no more trousers. I now asked the lady, I said, are there things you would want him to give up? I said, have you ever asked him to give up anything? She said, yes. I said, so if you've asked him to give up something and you think that he should listen to you because you feel more comfortable when he does that, then why is wearing trousers, not wearing trousers? Why is there a problem? But you see, before marriage, you were wearing trousers. He saw you, he saw your shape, he saw the backside, he thought that this is nice, and then that was what attracted him. A lot of people get attracted with that, but they blame the Holy Spirit. He got attracted with that, and then he feels uncomfortable that somebody else is going to see it. The same thing he saw that attracted him, so he wants to hide it from anybody else seeing it. And then he says, no, when I marry you, you should not wear this anymore. Something has changed. Motive has changed. So we need to be very careful what we accept, what we allow. Subtle control. A lot of times you can miss it. You can't speak to your parents, you can't speak to your siblings, you can't hang out with your friends. Once you're seeing this, once they're questioning what you know to be acceptable and right and makes you happy, as a single lady, run. It is very important. Run. I don't think we could cover everything about this, but it is very wrong. They're asking for money issues. I don't think any woman should encourage that. Chidinma has already spoken to you about that. Before we leave that, I'm going to talk about when a gentleman has no accountability. They're not accountable to anybody. What do you think about that? You see, these days, a lot of people everybody knows everything, if you know what I mean. There are a lot of people, they're blabbing. Except you know what you're doing, they can almost convince you. The Bible talks about them. Except you are actually secured, you will believe what they're saying. And they're not accountable to anybody. Should this be something to be worried about? Is that a red flag? That there is nobody who can hold them accountable? Is that something to be worried about?
It certainly is. It certainly is. I was talking to a woman, I think in the course of the week, and she said her husband just got up and after 33 years in marriage, said he wants out. Now, that was very shocking for her. When I asked, is there someone you think he respects, can speak to about this? Her response was no. Now, this is where it becomes a problem. You think it's okay for a man to go on not having anyone he respects, anyone who can call him to order, anyone who he listens to. When when it becomes a problem in marriage, when there's a problem in marriage, it becomes a challenge when there's no one you can even call to talk to him, for him to okay, at least listen to the person and see if you can get another perspective to the situation. It is very important that a man has someone he at least listens to. Very important.
Thank you for that. Now to the next question. A lot of people, when we talk on a Christian platform about getting to know somebody will tell you that, look, you can never really get to know somebody. Some people will tell you, I've been married to this man for 15 years. I only found out 2 weeks ago that he has 3 children somewhere. Because you can never really know somebody. So how are we supposed to do this as born-again Christians, as children of God? How is a Christian lady expected to see through these hidden dangers, which in a lot of cases in some cases are actually very hidden? How do we know? How do we crack it so we don't become victims?
I think we need to get to that place where we have a walk with God. Let me say something before I come into that, because talking about this, even for ladies who have certain concerns before going into marriage, sometimes I would always ask, how does God speak to you? How does God speak to you? Every Christian should master the art of hearing God. So in that, when certain things happen, it won't come as a surprise to you. You would know God's voice. You would be used to how God speaks to you. So, for even going into marriage, for anyone listening, any single lady listening, and you're concerned, you're wondering, how do I know if it's God's choice? My question would be, how does God speak to you? You should master the art of hearing God. So in a case like that, remind me again, what was the question? Let me backtrack.
The question is, as a Christian lady, how are you expected to see through these hidden dangers? Because some of them are actually hidden.
Yes. So when you know how God speaks to you, you would have a relationship with God. You would have a relationship with God. He would reveal things to you. There will be signs. If you ask a lot of women who sometimes begin to see these red flags in marriage, they will tell you they saw the signs before marriage. Some of them knew, some of them were warned about it, but they just felt that, he's a Christian brother, he's going to change.
Yeah.
So he loves me, so he will change. No, people don't change like that. So have when the scripture says that for those who have had their senses exercised, used to discern, that we'll get to the point where our relationship with God is not just about when we want things, but we truly experience God. We know His heart. We can feel His heartbeat. In that case, when you're in tune, you can't miss it. Your antenna is up, it's receiving. You can't miss it.
Awesome.
So, for that lady listening, I'll say, invest time in your walk with God. Invest time in your walk with God. Spend time with God. Spend time in the Word. Your senses will be sharpened. You pick those things. You pick the signals.
Awesome.
Yeah.
See, I discovered something, Chidi, a few, I don't know how long ago this was. I was studying the book of Genesis, and I found out that when God put Adam to sleep to create Eve, after Eve was created, the Lord presented Eve to Adam. The Lord did not make any introduction, yet Adam knew who Eve was. He knew. He knew. He says, this is who you are. Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, or whatever the description he gave. She shall be called woman. There is a knowing in us. There is a knowing in us. The only thing is that most of us, we turned it off. We turned it off deliberately, or we turned it off passively. I am keen to help women to know that every woman can hear from God. Every woman can hear from God. My husband usually preaches. He says, God speaks to unbelievers. How much more believers? I mean, you can see examples in the Bible. You don't need to be born again to hear from God. Saul, on his way to Damascus, was he born again? No. The king, even writing on the wall, God spoke to many people who did not have any direct relationship with him. How much more you who say you are, a child of God? I mean, you can imagine, I've got children, but I don't speak to them. But the neighbors hear my voice and they recognize the neighbors' children know my voice and I speak to them. You would think that there's something wrong with me, isn't it? God is a responsible father. He wants you to know his will. Because if you don't know his will, because you couldn't hear his voice, then somebody else is going to introduce God to you and tell you something else and say that they're speaking on behalf of God. I don't know if you've ever heard this, Chidi. A gentleman approached me while I was in the uni. I think I was probably in 200 level medicine. And this gentleman came and said, Sister OMOBOLA, I just want to bless the Lord, for the opportunity to come and speak to you. It's taken me quite a lot. I really didn't want to come, but the Holy Spirit would not give me rest. He's been impressing it upon my heart, and naturally I wouldn't have even wanted to speak to you about this. And after all the blabbing, he then dropped the bombshell. The bombshell is that God says you are my wife. This man that cannot stand me. In fact, how he fought with God and prevailed, and the angel that he fought with tore his tendon, just for him to accept me as his wife, and what he has had to go through to come and tell me. I said, bros, I will save you from this dilemma. I did not waste time. I didn't waste time. Do you know what? At that point, I still did not know who my husband was. But my dear, no, I knew, no, this is not the picture I see. And I told him, I said, bros, thank you very much for coming. I will make the job very easy. Please repeat this after me. And that was what I said. I said, bros, please repeat this after me. He was still looking at me like, what is this girl saying? I said, say, if God has not told me that OMOBOLA is my wife, may thunder fire me now. My brother turned around 180 degrees and walked away from me without saying a word. Do you know why? Because he knew God had not told him anything. I was not yet, I wouldn't say that I could hear God expressly at that time, but I knew that this one that they are delivering in front of me is not a delivery from heaven. So, my dear sisters, people are hidden. Even you yourself, you are hidden. For somebody to unravel you and discover you is a big task. So be very careful. Don't let anybody hide. And how can you prevent that? Make sure that you, one, as Chidi said, ask God. Number two thing, there is a checker in you. Make sure you follow the checker in you. Follow the checker in you. Chidi also mentioned something. When you see things, God allowed you to see it for a reason. God would allow you to see it for a reason. My husband would say, the day you were going to his house, the dog was barking. His neighbor's dogs were barking. You should have listened. He said, when you were trying to reverse inside his house, your tire went inside a gutter. That is, look, subtle ways that God will communicate with you. Good. Shall we go to the...
Can I add something?
Go ahead.
You know, in the old times, there's something parents used to do. They used to go do their searches. They would go search, look into the person's history, background, and that. These days, we tend to discount that, but that still helps. Yes, you cannot know all of someone, but you can still set about it. And in our age, it's global age now. There are ways to go about it. You will know someone who knows someone who knows someone, and this is for someone who is asking, okay, but what practical step can I take in going about this?
So ask questions. The people you know, come on, friends. Facebook is a very funny place. Let me tell you something that happened on Facebook. A few years ago, one of my sisters, contacted me and said that she believed that there was somebody after her husband. And the person who was chasing after her husband is a married woman. And this married woman is based in another part of the world. I said, you have evidence. This woman sent me evidence. I said, okay, that is all right. Let me help you. You see, there are battles you fight physically. There are battles you fight spiritually. I normally tell women, use your brain. Common sense is supposed to be common so that we can all use it. I said, I don't want to fight, but I'm going to start from an easy place. Chidi, you know what I did? I found this lady, the culprit, on Facebook. I looked at our common friends. I looked at her family photo of her husband, photo of her children, detective. I turned to a detective. For the sake of my sister, I turned to a detective. When I found a few common friends that we had, I contacted them. I said, hello, do you know this person personally? I got two answers. They said they knew her. I said, okay. Now I'm going to send you a message to the lady. I said, just deliver it as I said it. You are toying with my property. I said, tell her that the man with which she's messing around is the husband of one of my sisters. And when I pray regarding your matter, you will be wasted. And your children will have no mother. She pulled out from that relationship without me praying. Why? Because there are things you need to confront. Because I told her, I know you. I know where you live. Spiritually, I know your address. I said, so, slack interest, as they will say it in Wari, slack interest from this man. I'm not saying you cannot hop around and go to other places, but this one, she's my sister. You are disturbing our husband. Carry your matter, go and sell it somewhere else. And that was the end of that issue. So, my dear sisters, let us be very aware. Sensors on. Make sure you know if you are hopping, know how you are hopping. At the same time, God will send you checkers. God will send you signals. God will help you to know. Listen to the sensors that are within you. Next one. Is it possible to give that God will give his daughter to a man with serious anger issues? Is it possible?
Okay. God's daughter may have seen signs she ignored.
Mm-hmm.
God's daughter may have made excuses for this man. And the truth is that marriage works on principles. If people don't apply the principles, they cannot get the results they expect. We would always say that marriage is made up of the two individuals that come into it.
Yeah.
So you're bringing your bit to it, he's bringing his bit. He may be a Christian man who has not worked on some parts of his character.
Yeah.
He's not learned to deal with anger. He's not learned to process it. He's not learned how to go about it. He's not learned how to manage it. And then he probably, maybe by reason of the way he was trained or his exposure, he just thinks it's the way I am, you have to put up with it. Okay. But marriage works better when we keep improving on ourselves. You know, there was something I wanted to highlight earlier when I said, sometimes we talk about relationship red flags. We keep pointing finger at the other person.
That's right.
Red flag in the other person. But my question to anyone who is listening today would be, what relationship red flags do I have? What relationship red flags do I have? Because it might be you who has that anger issue.
Yeah.
And you think it's okay, he loves you, or he has to deal with it if he loves me. And you don't think that you should start dealing with that issue. You should start working on it. If he loves me, he should love me faults and all. Yes, he loves you, but deal with that issue before it affects your marriage. So the more we work on ourselves, the better we get, the better our marriages get.
Awesome.
You get into marriage, you're not as patient, you're not as tolerant. As you start working on yourself, you start learning to tolerate your spouse. You see things improve. So for that man, probably he's not even realized that he should be working on himself. He might be a Christian brother, a good brother. You married him. You married, someone with potential, but he's just not worked on them. He's not worked on the flaw he has.
I love on that Christian brother that has potential. I love, because you see, anybody who is truly born of God can be helped by the Holy Spirit to become better. The problem is that a lot of people have not allowed the Holy Spirit to do the work of transformation. Now, every human being has a tendency to cross the line between being upset and having a rage. Every human being, we all have that in us. We have the whole of the scope, and you can go, like that, and just follow it to the other side, which is going to give you awful results or awful outcome. So you need to allow the Holy Spirit to do the work of transformation. And I normally say something: when no matter how much you are hungry for cake, let it be cooked. If it's not cooked, you will find out that, one, you wasted your money, you wasted the cake material, you wasted the time, and you're still not fully satisfied because you have to go again. Is it possible for God to lead a single sister to a married man who has issues in his marriage to be married as a man and wife? Second question, is it possible for God to lead a single Christian lady to a man who enjoys romance in a relationship? There's two questions. One, yes, we will answer it, maybe not now. But the second part of that question, I don't understand. A man who enjoys romance in a relationship. Well, I'm assuming that you're not talking about sex before marriage, because what is the romance in a relationship? The romance is in your heart before you marry that person. No matter how much he wants to romance, he should just be imagining what he would do when you're already married. So there is nothing like enjoying a romance. You should not be given the privileges of being that romantic with him. A man will know whether you love him. Without you, I don't know what that romance will entail, because if I got this question sent to me, I probably would have asked that sister a few more questions so that we will understand what you're trying to say. As a single sister married to a married man who has issues in his marriage. So what you're telling me is that that man has a problem in his marriage and he wants to marry you. As he lets the woman, did the woman release him to go? Did she leave the marriage and said, I do not want you anymore? There are many other things to ask. I normally say to ladies, there is no one answer that for every question. Somebody says, Omobi, can I marry him? His divorce is whatever. By the time I ask them 2 questions, they cannot answer. So one, there is no one answer that fits every situation and everybody. And 2, that should not even be a question you should be asking, except that man is already asking you to marry him. And if he's asking you to marry him, I should be putting this question back to you. What has God told you about that man? I once had a lady contact me and she said, this guy wants to marry me. His wife used to cheat on him. So the marriage ended because the wife used to cheat on him. I said, that is fine. The next time he calls you, ask for the phone number of his ex-wife. I need to speak to her. It's very simple. There's some things we don't even need to pray about. I say, ask for the phone number of his ex-wife. I need to hear a version of the story. And the man stopped calling because we asked to speak to his ex-wife. I mean, that does not need you hearing from God. If a woman was cheating, the woman will tell you, yes, I was cheating. Yes, I slept with another man. It's a man that will be saying, hey, no, I don't want my wife to catch me. No, a woman will say, I did it. I said, I need to speak to that woman and ask, so why did you cheat on Uncle now? The man stopped calling because what the story he had given this single lady was a lie. So if that man is already asking you to marry him and he's already told you that he had problem, issues, there are many things that are called issues. Him beating up his wife and his wife running away with the children, that was issue. Him not being faithful, that's an issue. His mother being the one managing the marriage, that is an issue. Can you see many issues that a man could have that will make his marriage to not work? If he wants to use you to mop up his mess, well, it depends on whether you think that you're a good mop or you deserve to wait for the person that God has prepared for you. So I'm gonna say this should be our last question because I wanted this to finish at exactly 1 hour. How should you respond when people counsel a Christian lady to stay and manage the attitudes, or even worse, red flags in relationships, simply because she's getting old and there is no perfect man anywhere?
It is very sad when you see single ladies who have waited for so long get into a relationship, and then they even knew before getting into this relationship that this is not it. It's not like what you've been waiting for. But out of desperation, the time is running out, the clock is ticking, they get into relationship, and then they get in there and they become a shadow of who they used to be. It is, I don't know, I think that's double punishment, that having waited so long, you get in there and you're suffering. So it is, I don't know how to explain it. And to this, I would say to anyone, love yourself enough. You truly love yourself. Know what you want and believe that it would come, and be patient enough to wait for it. It will come. It might delay, but it will come. It will happen. It will happen. Wait for it. Don't just get on into it. And so when people start asking you to just marry anyone because time is going, I think you should love yourself enough to know what you want, and not just get into that relationship and begin to regret things later. They would always say the common thing: a broken engagement is better than a failed marriage.
Yeah.
It's better that you're still single. But you know, this is what I'm saying right now. For some people who are single, they'll be like, you're saying that because you're married.
Married, yeah.
But it's better that you're single and without, than that you're in there and you're suffering, or that you're in there and you're just living a life of regrets. You're wishing you were out. And you know what makes it more painful is when probably some years down into the marriage, you then see someone that would have been it. And you're like, I had waited. Love yourself enough. Love yourself enough. You know, it may sound funny when we say, or like a cliche, God is never late. God is never late. God is never late. We are so fixed in time. God is not. God has a plan for you. At your own time, it will come to fruition, and your marriage will become an envy to everyone.
Mm.
Yes.
Awesome. Now I want us to go back 2 steps to something that you highlighted earlier on, talking about the red flags. And if I called a prayer tonight and I said that every woman waiting for marriage should come and join us and pray, we're likely to hear people respond to prayer about binding the devil, dealing with familial delays, or the work of the enemy, where they buried our wedding ring, where they tore our wedding dress. All those are prayer points that Christian women pray. But one of the things that we do not talk about is what the men see when they see us. The red flags, the things that you demonstrate, like you said earlier on. There are women that even I, as a woman, I can't marry them. I can't marry them because I'm like, really? No. At times we push this self-sufficiency as a woman. We push it to the extreme. Nobody wants to marry somebody who feels that they don't need anybody. There is a fine line between being a needy woman and being a woman who feels like I actually need somebody in my life right now. So what are the red flags? What do men see? I don't know if you're in the best position to answer this, but what are the kind of things that when men see, they will always walk away? They see you're a Christian sister, you're born again, but they always leave. And some of the sisters who are watching this, they probably had a few men leave them for the same reason, but they're not aware that that is the cause of the problem. And yet we're binding the devil, binding the devil, binding the devil, but it is something that they can actually deal with. Would you like to point out a few things in that regard, please?
You know, sometimes when we coach people on our intimacy builder program, we notice that they have some self-sabotaging issues. This you just see patterns. You're going first relationship, that thing happened. Second relationship, the pattern is there. It keeps happening, and that's because it's you who is replicating this thing. That said, sometimes some ladies are very desperate and they don't know. And so when you get into a relationship, you want to make that man your therapist. You lynch on him. You want him to encourage you. You have a problem, you keep sharing. You don't know where to draw the line. And sometimes he even encourages you, and you refuse to be encouraged. So you become a weight. He's like, you're just hanging there. You're not taking my thing. And he feels, I'm sorry, I have to check out. And you feel very distraught. But it was just you, not, I mean, you make him your therapist, you were draining him of things he would do. Yes. So sometimes that could be it. You touched on something earlier when you also talked about sometimes you have some behavioral patterns that are there and you think it's okay. You're not working on yourself enough. You make excuses for them. And you think any man who loves you enough should marry you with that. No, but things are changing these days. A lot of men are thinking, they're getting concerned. Why are marriages around me breaking up? You see men who are moving on to their late 30s and they're not married because they're concerned. I want to get it right. I want to get it right. That's not an excuse, but a lot of them have seen too much.
Wow. Marriages are breaking up. A lot of men are actually scared of commitments these days. And it's very sad. One, the financial capability is probably not as strong as it used to be. And the demands on them is also a lot more. I don't know if you saw the post I put on TPJ a few days ago about human hair. I mean, for you to be able to impress a lady now, if she makes a demand for you to buy her human hair and whatever, you have to be up to par with, you know, men of your age, of your status. And you must be able to drop those things. And in the days of our mothers, ages ago, you didn't have to do much, you know, to earn the affection of a woman. So at times, not only do the men, they don't want a project. That's what Chidi was talking about. Don't become a project for a man. Nobody wants to have a headache every day. Don't become their project, and also don't turn them into a cash point. I mean, I see a lot of ill-behaved women. Somebody asks for your mobile number. The next day he says, oh, I called you last night. You didn't pick your phone. Why didn't you call back? I didn't have credit. So the man is already thinking, so I'm the one who will be giving you credit to call me. There are ways. Yes, you are praying, you are attending deliverance. You've been to 9 deliverance sessions for remaining single, and you're working full time, and the man wants you to talk to them. You didn't call them back because you were waiting for them to send credit. And then eventually you said, okay, I'll buy credit, I'll call you. And he says, so how are you? You say, I don't even understand. A lot is happening. My mother's house rent has not been paid. My junior sister's university fees are due. Oh, immediately the man goes like, look, God forbid, I already have my extended relatives there. And that is how it goes. So I'm not saying that this is the case for everybody. I'm just saying that we need to be, yes. Somebody says the financial expectation of women on men is embarrassing. That's the reason why at times you marry and they start treating you anyhow. There was a time I spoke to one of my ladies, and she was talking about how her husband was treating her. And I said to her, when did this start? And we had to go, you know, diving into the bottom. And you know what the problem is? This man is the one paying for her parents' house where they live. He is the one feeding her parents. He's taking care of her siblings. Everything. This man is the one responsible. Why will he not shout on you? Well, I'm not saying it's okay to shout on your wife, but all your family, because I asked, I said, if this man is treating you the way you said he's treating you, have you discussed with your parents? Have your parents cautioned him? How can they caution him when he's the one paying their rent? He's the one sponsoring your siblings' children in school. How can you give such responsibility to a man? It is wrong. It is wrong. There's an adage in my husband's village. They said it is the guard of palm wine that will dictate where you will put rope on its neck. A lot of us women, we are the ones who allow ourselves to be treated like this by men. So we've gone through quite a bit today. I think I'm going to leave it like that. And I believe that...
Let me just finally say something.
Go ahead.
You know, sometimes as ladies, we are so focused on the men finding us that we do not realize that they are also looking for someone.
Yeah.
So that man you're looking for, that the kind of man you want to marry is looking for someone as well. Are you that kind of woman? Because you need to then begin to assess yourself and prepare yourself, rise up to it, so you are able to, when you attract him, keep him. Because sometimes the problem we have is with keeping. We can attract. Yes, okay, they come and they go, but you don't keep. So you need to rise to become the woman, the kind of woman that kind of man is looking for.
Awesome. That is key. Men are not looking for people who will depend on them for sanitary pads these days. They want people. Remember the day when Chidi's husband came and spoke and said, wow, when I saw that lady and how she was reading, I said to myself, I have to marry this lady. Said, she can make my future better. Are you the kind of a lady who will make a man's future better? These people, their eyes are looking. They are wiser these days. They know how to see. They will look at you and admire your shape and everything, but they will never commit because they're looking for somebody who actually make their life better. Can you make a man's life better? They can see who you are, whether you have where you're going, whether you have plans, whether you have brain, whether you are using the brain that you have. whether you can make money, whether you can make a home. Yes, my husband was telling me off today and said, look, my wife, no ever call this place your kitchen anymore. It belongs to all of us. I said, that is fine, my husband. The garage where you kept all the things, why did you keep telling me is your workshop? But the truth is that the man wants to see something that you are bringing into the relationship. So if you're not equipping yourself and you're not bringing anything, that's the reason why nobody wants to buy market from you, because they don't think you're going to be lucrative for them. I think we've gone through quite a lot tonight. Thank you so much, Chidi. Anything you want to say to the ladies before we leave them for the night?
No pressure, no pressure. Don't let the pressure in. Your man is coming, and he's coming in a big way. Just relax, enjoy yourself, enjoy your walk with God. So when he comes, he will be catching a big fish. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Ladies, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. It's been absolutely wonderful to have you. Thank you for the questions sent in. Sylvia, I'm going to be contacting you at some point to ask for a bit more clarification regarding the questions, because I think ambiguity may be one reason why we may give you a wrong counsel. We need to address this properly. So thank you, ladies, for joining us. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you. Thank you for coming. My regards to your husband and your son for holding forth and bonding whilst you were hanging out with us tonight. Please give my regards.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a good night. Bye, everyone. Bye.